Hello, welcome to Topper Machine. I'm Josh Topper, and this is our brand new 2021 Lion 23MT lathe, 23-inch by 80-inch with a 4-inch spindle bore. And what we're going to do today, we're going to do a quick walk around of the machine, and I apologize for the lack of machining content lately. I've got a lot of stuff in the works and a lot of stuff coming. There's more hydraulic cylinder rods coming. There's some line boring coming. There's some horizontal milling coming. I've got to repair a Caterpillar axle housing. That's coming up. So there's a lot of stuff coming. But getting the lathe in here and getting it set up has been really key, and getting the old Monarch out of here. So this is our last video of non-machining content for a while. But we are going to do some machining today because we are going to modify our T-nut or whatever T-piece that fits in the compound for our Aloris tool post. So we will do some machining, but first let's do a walk around of the machine and so you guys can all see what it is. And I actually have it wired up, so I'll explain some things and then we'll get on to the machining. So we'll start right here. The Lion comes standard with a follow rest and a steady rest. And these both are quite useful. I've never actually used a follow rest, so I'm kind of excited to give this a try. This is a really nice steady rest, the roller bearings. And then I bought extra the large capacity steady rest, and I believe this will do 13 inches. So it's a pretty good size steady rest, and looking forward to trying this one out too. So the tailstock is a 5 Morse taper, and it has inch and metric graduations down here, and it's a 2-speed gearbox on here, which is really nice. So right here is your high and low gear, so 1 to 1, which is your high speed, and then 1 to 4, so 1 crank, or 4 cranks to 1. So high and low. This is really a nice feature, and then you have, let me get it around here, inch and metric, but it also has for high and low the feed rate. So in low gear, 1 is 5/10, 1 degree here, 1 gradient, or 5 thousandths for the high gear. Another cool feature that I've never seen before on any other machine is they milled a groove in the ways here. And this is so the coolant will run back to here, but you drop back into the coolant pan instead of running off the end of the ways. So this is a really neat feature too. So the carriage here is where everything happens. Here's your motor start stop, an emergency stop. We have a switch here for the work light and one for the coolant pump. This is a joystick control. So instead of it being, a lever for the cross feed and one for the longitudinal feed, it is one lever. And that's another nice feature. You're not going to get cracked in the nuts when that thing's spinning around. So when you engage it in the direction, there's a button here on the end of the joystick that is your rapid. And it also disengages the handle here when you put the rapid in, or when you engage the feed. So you don't get cracked in the nuts with that either. And then here is our threading for our half nut to engage the half nut. Here's the thread dial. And that I'm going to have to do some reading up on, because with metric threads you can use it, but there's something special about it I'm not sure yet, and I've got to do some more reading up on that instead of just feeding in and then reversing back out of it. And here is our clutch lever. Similar to the Monarch, down is forward, and then up is reverse. A very nice feature. I just absolutely love clutched lathes, and this was a requirement for me to buy this. So on the headstock now we have the chuck guard, which has a micro switch, and it will shut the motor off if you engage the spindle without it over here, which really sucks, but I'm thinking I'll get used to it and I'll like it because it's going to catch the coolant instead of throwing it all over the place. And it's effortless. I mean, it's a very nice guard. Come with the 3-jaw 12-inch chuck on a D111 mount, and there is a 4-jaw D111 also that comes with it. So 2 very nice chucks, and I do have an adapter plate coming for another chuck that will be setting up for this lathe. It's very special, so stay tuned, you'll like that chuck. We have a max spindle speed of 1400 RPM, 3 ranges, from 8 to 1400, and we have all of our feeds and speeds on this chart here. Inch, metric, diametral. I mean, there's so many features on this machine. Inch and metric without change gear, which is really awesome. Left and right feed, cutting or threading, and then down here we have our gear selections for whatever we're doing. So this setting is for, trying to remember what this one is, and I think this is our, for inch and metric. You got to shift this also, but everything's here. You don't have to physically change out gears to do this. So again, very, very nice that way. So another thing I really like, I had them install this when I bought it, was the new all readout. I was going to put one of my machine DROs on it that I'm getting out of the UK, but I decided to just spend the money and get the new wall. This is a DP700, and these new walls are just awesome readouts. And you know, like I said, I would have went with my MDROs. They're an excellent DRO. I've never had an issue with them. They're magnetic scale, just awesome, awesome digital readouts for the price. But I figured I'll just splurge on this one and get the new wall. And then I didn't have to put it on myself, which was even better. So that's a nice feature there that I'm looking forward to using on this machine also. All right, so let's power this thing up, and let me show you how the clutch works. Those of you who have never used a clutched lathe, you have no idea what you're missing out on. Clutched are absolutely awesome. I love them. Every non-clutch lathe I have ever run, I have absolutely hated every moment of running it. I love machining, but those machines just made it miserable. So let's start this thing up, and let me demonstrate how the clutch actually works and what you can do with it, what makes it better. All right, so what you heard there when I started it, that's a 15-horse motor. This thing's got some real power behind it. We're starting out at 710 RPM. So now we engage the clutch. And the nice thing about a clutch lathe is this. You can slowly engage it. You can feather it in. If you just want to spin something quick and take a look at what it looks like before you ramp it up, I mean, yeah, you can do it by hand, but I can power it. And I can feather it in. And right up to speed. And the other nice feature about this machine is the spindle reverse. Now, this is a brand new machine, so there's going to be a break-in period on the clutch and an adjustment coming up, but I'm very pleased with it. It's just it's a smooth clutch. But we're at 710 RPM. I engage that lever and I can just make it rotate a little bit. It doesn't ramp right up to 710 RPM. That's the thing I hate about those machines. I absolutely love the clutch. So the lathe does come with a factory taper attachment, and it's kind of a limited taper attachment. I mean, it's only good for, like, it said 400 millimeters, so what, just about 12 inches. So it's kind of, you know, it's not as great as the Monarchs, but you know, it's good enough for a lot of things. So we'll play with that coming up. That'll be a fun one. The compound, it's very nice. It's very smooth compared to what I'm used to. You know, old machines that are beat up and used. And you know, this little guards are kind of hokey, but you know, they might come in handy. I might actually like this. I might keep this one on here. You know, there's inch and metric on both the crossfeed and the longitudinal. There's a dial here on the carriage for longitudinal also, so that's really nice. There's a lot of nice features, a lot of things I like about this machine so far. So next, let's get set up and let's modify our tool post so that it'll fit on the new Lion here, and then we can get set up and do some test cuts. Okay, so we're over here at the Bridgeport, and I measured our T-nut slot over there on the Lion, and it's about 2.5, well, 2 9/16. And our old T-nut for the big Monarch, the 25N Monarch, is 2 9/50. So what we're going to do is we're going to set it in the vise vertically, take off half of what we need, flip it over, take off the other half, and then we'll remachine for the T. We're trying to keep the bolt hole, the stud hole, centered. So we're just going to take off each side and keep that centered up. And we also need to shorten it. It's a little too tall. So let's get that started. Okay, so we got it milled down to the width we need down here, but we need to take this width down now. And this is at 2/200, and we need to go to 1/800, so another 200 thousandths aside. We're going to do the same thing, but this height is perfect here. So we're going to come in just to it, and then take our 200, flip it over, take our 200. Just that simple. All right, well, let's see if it fits. Beautiful, except it's a little tall now, so we need to mill off whatever this height is. We want to be just a touch below the top surface of our compound. So let's get that set up in the Bridgeport and mill that off. All right, well there it is. It's the right height and everything. Now here's our rod, threaded rod that was with the tool post. You screw these together. Make sure it doesn't come out the bottom, because if it does, then we'll have to shorten it, but I think it'll be okay. And it does not come out the bottom. Perfect. Well, let's go get this fitted up on the lathe and see how it looks. Beautiful. Perfect. The Aloris DA tool post mounted up on the Lion. You know, I could have splurged and spent the extra $5 and got the new tool post, but this saved me a lot of money, and I'm already into this pretty deep. So I'm hoping this machine will last me 25 years until I retire, and I probably even then should last me past that. I'm hopeful. So now let's get a piece of 2-inch bar stock that I got and run some test cuts and see what it looks like. Boy, that 2-inch bar stock going into that 4-inch spindle bore is like throwing a hot dog down a hallway. There's a lot of room there. Pretty nice. Okay, so I got my 2-inch chuck of bar stock slid all the way down. Got my centers in it, chucked up. What I'm going to do next, and I didn't talk about this earlier, I have already leveled this machine. I started leveling it on a couple days ago, and just check it every 12 hours and tweak a little bit, and check and tweak and check and tweak. Well, now what I'm going to do, before I even make my 2 test cuts, I'm going to run an indicator and just see where we're at. So let's get the indicator up there and just run it back and forth and see where we're at. So it's fairly close. I started down here at 0, and about here it jumped back a couple thou. and it stayed that all the way down. I turned it about 90, and we stayed about that 2 thou under 0. And when we got to here, it jumped up to 4 thou over. So I'm guessing my bar's got a little bit of a bend in it. We'll start there. What we'll do is we'll take a little cut down here, and then we'll turn it in the same amount with our digital readout down here, and cut down here, and see where we're at. So that's how we're going to do a test on this, just to see how close they are end to end. All right, so this end is about 8 thousandths smaller than that end. So what we really need to do now is we need to push the tailstock over. I already checked the level. The ways are absolutely perfect level. They haven't moved. This thing hasn't moved in a few days, so it's doing really well, but I'm going to be checking it at least once a week for the next month, maybe even more often than that. I'm going to keep the level on the machine, just be ready to keep testing. But now I'm pretty sure it's the tailstock is off, so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our indicator, and we're going to push that tailstock over about 4 thousandths, because we're about 8 thousandths off, so we'll go over 4 away from the cutter, and that will increase our diameter. So let's do that. .9, 69, 1.9, 69, 70. I'd call that good enough over that distance. I mean, that's a pretty, that's got to be at least 5 feet, maybe a little more. I didn't measure it, but that's pretty good. And this thing's fun to run, actually, with that joystick control, and there's no slop there. I mean, you crank that crossfeed nut, and I'm used to going about a half a turn, and then it moves on the readout. And this thing, geez, you barely move it, and it's already moving back. It's pretty awesome. So I'm very happy with this machine. Well, there you have it, all set up. Everything's cutting nicely. This is a real joy to run. I mean, compared to some of the other stuff I've run, this is a very, very nice machine. I'm very happy with it. And then you saw how we do a 2-ring test. That's basically a 2-ring test. A lot of the times they just put larger rings on a smaller shaft, and then you can turn on those rings. But I had this chunk of 2-inch that I could sacrifice slightly. And I can turn this into something else coming up. I make some rollers that I can turn this down and use that. But this is pretty much set up and ready to go, and I'll just keep an eye on it over the next month, checking it every couple days or so, and just keep running it, working it, and getting it dialed in, because it will move. It'll keep moving until it finally settles in right where it wants to be. And but all around, just a great machine. And so check out Adam Booth's channel. He bought a brand new Precision Matthews, a 16 by 40, 16 by 60, it's somewhere in that range. And I didn't know they made lathes that big. It's a Taiwanese machine. And Adam had asked me what I thought of the Lion, and he's looking forward to seeing this video. So Adam, I really want to know what you think of that Precision Matthews. I'm really interested. I just haven't looked at the Taiwanese stuff at all. I was more going for the clutched headstock because I'm used to the Monarchs. So I'm really interested to see what you think of that. And you know, they do have some of these still over at International Machinery. So, you know, you could pick one of these up too. They're really nice. Anyway, back to the regular content after this. Back to real machining, line boring, Caterpillar axle repair, that's coming up. Horizontal milling, lots of fun stuff coming. So until next time, get out in your shop and get it done right the first time.